Привет, everybody. My name is Liz Stevenson, and I'm a pastry chef in Canada living in Dubai. Today's presentation is for all of you subscribers to my handbook, all of you who follow Tatiana. I'm going to talk about what to look for when buying chocolate, where it comes from, and hopefully the information that I give you is going to be really useful for those of you who want to follow a healthy lifestyle. So some of you may have heard that chocolate was discovered by the Mayan civilization. Actually, it goes even farther back than that, to the Olmec period, then to the Mayans, and then finally to the Aztecs. The Mayans realized that they could ferment cocoa beans to make a bitter drink, which was used for ceremonial purposes, usually for weddings. Then, when the Spanish conquistadors kind of invaded their territory, they took these cocoa beans back to Spain because they realized that the beans were traded as currency and were really, really valuable. So when the Spanish took them back to Spain in the 1600s, these beans were also used for bitter drinks, typically used by the elite, so all of the Spanish courtiers and the really wealthy members of Spanish society. The drink was still used for medicine, and it wasn't until someone discovered that if you added sugar, the medicine was less bitter, that it tasted really, really good. In the 1800s, we had the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, and this is where a lot of very clever people invented machines that could process cocoa beans and turn these into chocolate. We had a lot of really famous names like Henri Nestle and Rudolf Lindt, Joseph Fry, and John Cadbury. Some of these names you may already know. And these are individuals that really propelled chocolate into its modern day form. So that's a really short rundown of the history of chocolate. Now I want to tell you all about how it's grown. Some of you may not be aware that cocoa actually comes from a plant. These are cocoa pods, and these grow on trees. They can be different colors. Sometimes they can be red, and they can be even bigger than this. Inside, there are rows of beans that are covered in a white, fleshy pulp. Now, what the Mayans figured out was they could ferment this, and what would come out were beans, like this. They would dry these, and then they would crush them up to make their bitter drink. These cocoa beans are available today. We can find them often in this format. These are cocoa nibs. So we get to cocoa nibs by first fermenting the beans inside the pod, and then once all of the white flesh has fermented off, the beans are then dried, and then they are roasted. And from roasting, we get these cool little granules called cocoa nib. They're very bitter, but they're super good for you. They're really healthy, and they have a lot of a substance called an anthocyanin. So for the chocolate that we eat, it's coming from the beans that have been roasted, and this roasting process is really key to unleashing all of the flavor that we love and we know from dark chocolate in particular. Once we get to this stage, which is the cocoa nib stage, some manufacturers take that a step further, and they can be ground and pressed in a hydraulic press. And this pressing is what will separate cocoa powder from cocoa butter. So this is cocoa powder, and I'm sure you know this. It makes a delicious drink. It makes hot chocolate. And this is cocoa butter. This is the fat that's found in these beans. And the ratio between these two is about 50-50 in the beans themselves. You can melt this down, you can even cook with it, but it's quite expensive. And this is an ingredient that's found not only in chocolate, but it's also found in quite a lot of cosmetics. It doesn't smell amazing, but it doesn't have a very strong flavor either. And the melting point is a lot higher than butter. So that's why a lot of chocolate, this is the finished product from the beans, a lot of chocolate, dark chocolate, will have that characteristic snap, and it's getting that from the butter, which is very solid at room temperature. Now we see these are the ingredients of chocolate bars. So I want to show you what to look for when you're buying a really good quality chocolate bar. Most people probably don't know that commercial chocolate tends to contain a lot of non-chocolate ingredients. For a really good quality chocolate, what you're looking for is cocoa butter and beans. Sometimes there's going to be a little bit of sweetener added, and also you might find some kind of stabilizer, which is going to create a creamy effect on your tongue. The way that this is made is from grinding, and this process of grinding is actually called conching. And the conching is different from basic grinding in that it goes on and on and on for hours and sometimes days. And this is where different flavors can be added, or the natural flavor of the chocolate is actually developed even further. The person that discovered this method for conching is actually Rudolf Lindt. So this is Lindt. And in, I believe, 1880 something, he was trying to find a method for grinding chocolate so that it was more palatable, because at that time chocolate was still very grainy. And what he did was leave his machines on in the factory. He left his grinders on and went home for the weekend. He forgot to turn them off. When he came back, what he had was an extremely smooth chocolate, and that was essentially the origin of the chocolate bar. So we have him to thank for that. Thank you very much, Rudolf Lindt. Okay, so how do we know when we're choosing or eating a good quality chocolate? It's really important to look at the label, and the general rule of thumb is that the less ingredients, the better. And if you don't understand or have never heard of one of the ingredients, it's probably not that good for you. I'm going to take you through a range of chocolates here so that you can get a better understanding of what I mean. So this is the one that I've been waving around, and this is from a very, very good company called Valrhona that I work with a lot as a professional chef. They make extremely high quality chocolate for professionals, but you can find it more and more in retail environments. So this label it indicates that it's 70% cocoa solids. What does that mean? It means that 70% of the composition of this bar comes from these ingredients here. So it's cocoa butter and added to cocoa beans. And as we know, cocoa beans are also these little cocoa nibs. And cocoa nibs and beans can be pressed to reveal cocoa powder and cocoa butter. So as long as these elements are added to the bar in a high percentage, that means it's great quality. Well, what is the other 30%? The other 30% in this bar is going to be a little bit of sugar and an emulsifier. Let me read the list of ingredients here. We've got cocoa beans, sugar, cocoa butter, emulsifier, and a natural vanilla extract. That's it. Then here we have a milk. So there are definitely different qualities of milk chocolate on the market. And as soon as you start adding milk, sugar, and all of these other ingredients to chocolate, you're going to lessen the quality. So with a milk chocolate, all you really want to have is the same ingredients of this one, but with milk powder added. So then we've got this guy and this guy. Again, this is Lindt, and you're going to recognize these. I think it's quite a popular brand. In this label, we have cocoa mass. That's the same thing as cocoa beans, basically. Sugar, cocoa butter, and vanilla beans. So the same. This is also a 70%, but this is way more expensive. Why is that? Why does it make it more expensive? The reason is this is most likely made from a blend that the manufacturers bought in bulk, whereas this one is made from beans that are sourced and controlled all the way to the farm by Valrhona. So because they put a lot of effort into the supply chain, they make a superior tasting chocolate. They're both excellent quality, but this one will be a little bit more expensive. So this one has sugar, cocoa butter, whole milk powder, cocoa mass, milk fat, lactose, skim milk powder, barley malt extract, emulsifier, artificial flavoring. So, I'm not sure. I know that it's going to be a little bit expensive. I'm not sure what the quality is going to be like. Let's compare that to, I have a milk here. This is from the same company and it's a 40% cocoa solid. And we have cocoa butter, milk powder, sugar, and cocoa beans, and vanilla extract and soy lecithin, and barley malt, which gives it kind of a caramelized flavor. A few less ingredients and better. Oh, hi. So it can be a little bit difficult if you want to choose a milk chocolate to discern between the quality. As a general rule of thumb, just go by less ingredients is better. If it's more expensive, it probably indicates that the suppliers, or the manufacturers, have put more effort into supplying the beans, and you'll get a better flavor and a better product. Generally, what you pay for is what you get with chocolate. All right, last thing that I want to go through when reading ingredients, because I know this can be a little bit dull, is cheap and cheerful. So cheap and cheerful is, a commercial brand that you're going to find in the supermarket. We all have our favorites, but I want to take you through why this is not a good idea. And the reason is, well, something like this, sorry, it's upside down, is actually not chocolate. This is milk chocolate flavor. And the reason it's not chocolate is because the cocoa solid percentage is too low to be considered chocolate, and this is something that you need to look for. So when you're looking at your label and you're wondering what the percentage means, now you know. It means that's the amount of cocoa solids in the chocolate bar itself. The higher the percentage, the better the quality, and the less ingredients you'll have that are actually not chocolate. So if you're buying a 90%, you can expect that it's going to be very good quality, very, very bitter because it has less sugar, and pretty good for you. All right, let's take a little break. The last thing that I want to talk about is single origin and what that means. So some of you may have heard this term before, single origin. You may have also heard something called fair trade. And these are distinctions of a product that has been sourced to a specific geographical region, area, or even sometimes a specific plantation. If chocolate says single origin, that's considered bean to bar. And that's an indication of superior quality because the manufacturers have sourced and traced the origins of the chocolate all the way to a plantation or area that they know produces an exceptional quality of bean and cacao. But in terms of finding superior quality, single origin, look for a higher percentage and less ingredients. That's all for this segment. I hope you learned something new. I certainly enjoyed teaching you. Stay tuned for the next one where I'm going to teach you all about how to taste chocolate. Thank you. Bye.